Hi, this is Katie Simpson again. Welcome to day 2 of drawing and watercolor painting summer school. I'm super excited to work with you today with watercolors. I know we talked about warming up to it last week, so I'm really excited to get working on using the palette that you have. I'm sure it looks sort of like mine, but I don't know exactly what one you guys have. But I'll walk you through this and like different types of color mixing today. We're going to talk about color and shape also today. So color and shape are important elements of art. There are lots of different things that we are going to talk about that have to do with color during this class, but also we're going to talk a little bit about shape today. And I'll walk you through an activity. After we do a color wheel, we're going to do a little bit of a color mixing activity that involves shapes. So it's going to be super fun and a really good way to warm up your color mixing muscles. Now, I think that you have probably talked about this before, but we're going to go over it again. It's really important, and honestly, the more that you study art, the more times that you'll do this. This is also something that people study in college, so don't worry about it. You just keep going over it. It'll get easier and easier every time, and you'll get better at mixing colors too. So I'm super excited to start you out first with a color wheel. We're going to talk a little bit about the colors before we get moving on the color wheel, and I'll show you how to use your watercolor set too. But the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue, and that's really important because you can't really make a primary color, but you can make all the rest of the colors on the color wheel using primary colors. So to make a secondary color, you may already know, what would I do to get a violet or a purple? Yes, red and blue, totally. So one primary, which is blue, and one primary, which is red, equals a secondary color. So if I mixed blue and yellow together, I would get another secondary, green. If I mixed yellow and red, I would get another secondary also, which is orange. Super cool and exciting. And then there's something called a tertiary color. And this is something that you're probably going to end up mixing a lot yourself. I'll show you all about color mixing using the watercolors. It's super fun. But to get a tertiary color, you're going to use a primary color and a secondary color mixed together. So that if you wanted to get like a blue violet, which is a tertiary, you would mix blue and violet together, and then you would get a beautiful blue violet. The same goes for all of the other colors. So anywhere in the middle is called a tertiary color. A lot of the time people will want to make specific colors to paint different types of scenery or plants or whatever the thing is that you want to paint, and it's really important to be able to mix all these colors yourself. The more practice that you have though, the better that you'll get at it, so it'll become easier. So we're going to work on making a color wheel first, and then we're going to move on to the next activity. Let's do the color wheel, and then I'll give you directions for the next one. The first thing that we do will be to talk about the materials a little bit that you have. Now I want to show you my watercolor kit. This is probably 15 years old, maybe something like that. It's all kinds of spaces to mix the colors and like lots of different colors. It's not a lot different than the kit that you have. This can last a long time too if you take good care of it. So we're going to talk about that. You should have a brush that comes with your kit, and you have the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, the secondary colors, violet, orange, and green, and then usually you have brown and black. We're not really going to use the black that much when we're painting, so kind of try to ignore that. There's like all kinds of cool stuff you can do with this black paint, and sometimes you need it, but most of the time you're just going to need this part of the palette, or your brown when you're mixing. That's a nice brown, but I find when I'm painting natural things that I usually mix other colors with the brown, or mix all of these colors together to get different colors. So we're going to work on building a color wheel together and labeling the different colors so we know which color's which, and that's going to be really helpful for us for later. It's a good reference tool too. So you just need one piece of paper for this activity today. We're going to do another little bit of an activity over to this side. We're going to get our piece of watercolor paper, just one. We're also going to get some kind of water container with water in it. This is an old salsa container. You could use whatever you have around. That's totally fine. I usually use a yogurt container. Honestly, like a bowl would work too, as long as it's a bowl that it's okay that you get paint in. And a piece of paper towel or a napkin to dab your paint on. This is going to be really helpful later because sometimes we need to clean off our brush. By sometimes, I mean a lot, but I'll show you what to expect with that. So we need to wake our watercolor paint up because it's dry. It's been sitting by itself for a little while. So I'm going to wake it up by adding some water, and I'm rinsing my brush out when I'm going in between the colors every single time. So I'm just waking up my primary colors right now because I'm going to focus on that. And we're going to mix colors using the primary colors. You can always, of course, use the other paints in your palette, but we're going to do color mixing today. So I think it's important to practice doing this. So we're going to start by putting red on our color wheel, and we're just going to make it kind of a circle shape. And this is totally fine if it's, you know, everybody's is going to look a little bit different. That's totally normal and fine. So we have a red part. I'm going to rinse out that brush and then go to yellow. And I want to leave room in between the dots for more colors. So I'm going to put my yellow way down here. So I'd say that's about, you know, a couple inches from the top of the paper and a couple inches from the bottom. Rinse out my brush every single time. And then I'm going to get my blue. And I'm being gentle with this. I'm also being very gentle with the paintbrush. So I'm going to put that over here. And I have about as much room in between all the colors. So put some blue down on my paper, and I'm going to rinse my brush again. It's good practice to always rinse it. And sometimes I dab it off on the paper towel. That helps us get some more of the paint out of the brush. So the next thing that we're going to do is build our secondary colors using the primary colors. So I'm going to get some of the red, pick it up and put it down here on the top part of the palette. And the top of the palette is an amazing place. You get to mix colors up there. And this is like endless. You can mix whatever color you want, and we'll practice that soon too. And then I'm going to get some of my yellow. And did you notice I rinsed out the brush before I went from the red to the yellow? Especially it's important with yellow because it's really easy to get colors in the yellow and make the yellow another color for the next time we use it, and we don't want that. So I've mixed my colors together on the top of the palette up here, and I'm going to put that dot in between those two dots. We're also going to do tertiary colors, but I have a nice orange here in the middle of my yellow and red. I'm going to rinse out my brush, and I'm going to leave my orange up here. Then I'm going to get yellow again. And remember, I rinsed out my brush really good. And then I'm going to pick up some of this blue with a clean brush and mix the blue together with the yellow up here on the top of the palette. It's a nice green. I'm going to leave that there and paint a circle in between the blue and the yellow. Looking good. Rinsing out my brush again. I'm gonna get some red with a clean brush. Put it up here. I think I want a little bit more red. There we go. And I'm being gentle, gentle. Rinse out my brush. Pick up some blue and mix that together on the top here. Ooh, my color wheel looks good. So now I have the primary and the secondary colors. The next thing that I'm gonna do here is make tertiary colors. So the tertiary colors are a secondary and a primary mixed together. So let's start over here. I'm going to get a little bit of blue. I'm going to put it next to my violet on my lid, and then pick up a little bit of violet. There we go, that's nice. And then I'm going to put it in between. That's a lovely color. I'm actually going to pick up a little bit more of this purple, put it in there. Perfect. And then, rinsing out my brush again, I'm going to get some red and put it next to this violet again. And then I'm going to pick up some of the violet and put it into the red. So I think I need some more red. I accidentally added a little bit too much water. So I'm going to pick up some red gently, mix it with that violet over to the side, and then I can paint it on my color wheel. That's beautiful. Let me get a little bit more violet. And if you notice, there's like an endless amount of colors that you could put in the middle. You're trying to get an equal amount of each of those colors for this. But if you wanted to make a color wheel that was really big and had colors in between those two also, that would be really fun. All right, let's move on to something with the green because we have that close by. Let's first do blue. So I'm going to pick up some blue with a clean brush, put it next to the green. Rinse, rinse. Get some of the green and mix it with the blue. Now this is a really fun color because, you know, could be kind of turquoise or aqua. Might get a little bit more green in there. What a beautiful color. And then I'm going to get some yellow. Put it next to my green. And then I'm going to take this green and add it to the yellow. Just on that lid. Excellent. So let's get some yellow first because that's closer to me. Yellow, put it to the side here. Pick up some of your orange and mix it with that yellow. Beautiful. And then I'm going to rinse my brush out again. Get a little bit of red. And be careful, pick up some of that orange and mix it with the red. It's a nice color. So we have a medium in between those two that we're putting in the middle. So now we have all of our primary, secondary, and tertiary colors on our paper. So what we're going to do is, you know, when we're done with this whole palette, when we're done painting for the day, we're going to wipe that off. We're going to do something else next, so we might use some of those colors. That might be helpful for us. So I'm going to leave them for now, but we'll talk about cleaning it up later. The next thing that you're going to do is label all this stuff. So I think it's important to label the primary colors. So I like to do a little bit of like a kind of some lines going into the middle. I'm just using a regular pencil. And we're going to write primary colors. And on the outside, I'm going to write the name of the color. Blue. Red. Yellow. Then I'm going to write the secondary colors next. So I'm going to put green, purple or violet, either one will work, and orange, and then I'm going to write secondary here, I'm trying not to smudge my paint because it's wet. If you wanted to wait until this was dry and then write the color names, that's totally fine too. And then we're gonna put the tertiary color names down. So violet and blue often is called blue violet. Blue green. Yellow green. Yellow orange. And red orange. And then red violet. Awesome, we have the color wheel. So now when we're trying to figure out how to mix different colors, we can use this to figure out how to do it. It's kind of like math, but this is a really good way of knowing what to do really easily. Now you have that, so you can practice. Later on, we're going to practice mixing colors when we're doing different watercolor activities, so this will be really helpful to have on hand. So the next thing that we're going to do is make sure our brush is nice and clean, and then I'm going to give you some shape names. And let me show you a couple of examples of different students' art before we get going so that you know that it is totally up to you and it doesn't really matter where you put stuff. You get to choose. You did such a great job making your color wheel. It's so cool. I'm really excited to see all the colors mixed together. And this will be really helpful for you later because you will be able to figure out how to make different colors in whatever situation you are. This will work not only with watercolor paint, but also with colored pencils, also with crayons. You can overlap different things to make different colors with those two media. You can also use tempera paint, acrylic paint, all kinds of paint, whatever you have to make colors. So super, super fun. So we're gonna work now on a color mixing activity, which I'll show you some examples of in a second. But I'm gonna tell you some shapes and you're gonna draw them on your piece of paper next to your color wheel. And you can draw them wherever you want to. It totally doesn't matter. I'm just gonna tell you the different shapes that you're gonna use and you're gonna overlap them and make an abstract composition. So abstract means that it's not a picture of a thing. So it doesn't like represent something. So though they are shapes, mostly they'll be geometric shapes. So if you do overlap them in a way that looks like an animal, it still will be abstract. So that's pretty fun. So your job will be to, and I'll walk you through this whole thing too, but your job will be to put color, paint color, in the different shapes that are different colors, and where they overlap, the paint colors will mix. So we'll walk through this process a little bit too. You've got a lot of potential for kind of making whatever you'd like to, and this is really good practice with color mixing. So let's get started. Next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to call out different shapes and you're going to draw them on your paper wherever you want. So circle, rectangle, it's okay if it's wavy like that, doesn't matter. Triangle, square, cloud shape, oval, blob. I guess it's kind of like a cloud shape, but it's nice to have some organic shapes in here. So when we think about these different shapes, these are geometric shapes. They're shapes that we find in math, like a triangle, rectangle, square. If a circle is perfectly round, then it would be a geometric shape, but there's a lot of other shapes too. So this is just a few of them. And the shapes that are found in nature are called organic shapes. So that could be this oval. It's kind of like an egg-shaped oval, and like these blobby cloud shapes. The shape of a tree is an organic shape. The shape of a flower is also an organic shape. Shapes are everywhere, and they make up pretty much everything. Okay, so we're gonna paint these shapes in with different colors. First, we're gonna work on the primaries. So this is totally up to you again. Remember, this is your fun activity. So I'm gonna take some of this blue paint, and I'm gonna paint something blue, but everywhere that the shapes overlap, we're gonna change colors. So, and we're gonna mix the colors together to do that. Okay, so I've got a blue. Next I'm gonna work on another primary. So let's say my square is red. So just the place where the square is just by itself and hasn't overlapped another shape is just going to be red. Now this part's fun right here because we already know that that circle is blue. So we know that we have to put the part that overlaps here. We know what color to make it already. We have to put some violet or purple paint in there. So I'm going to get some of that. Super fun. And I am pressing so gently with my brush. This is really good practice for that too. Another thing that happens is that when the paint is wet next to the other wet paint, it might mix together. So I don't mind that, but we're going to work on an activity later on where we practice not having that happen for the first day. So it requires some patience and waiting for the paint to dry. So we're not going to do that right now because we're just having fun mixing the paint together. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is paint this rectangle yellow. So the red paint went on first. That might not mix together, but you know, if this orange paint and the yellow paint touches, it might mix. Let's see, what color do I want now? I'm going to get like a turquoise circle up here, or a blue-green. Now, this is super fun because this is already a tertiary color. So I'm going to mix the tertiary color and a primary color. And so I'm going to get something a little bit different than we've found so far when we were making our color wheel. So I'm going to take some yellow and I'm going to mix it in with this turquoise that I got here. It's a little bit different of a color than we found so far. It's pretty green. So now that I'm thinking about green, I'm going to make this triangle green. And really honestly, like, I'm doing all of these shapes myself, but as you're painting along with me, I want you to remember that your composition looks different than mine. So a composition is just the organization of objects in a picture. So that could be abstract like this. This is totally abstract. It's not a picture of a thing. But, you know, yours could be something else. I have no idea. It's up to you. So rinse, rinse, rinse. I'm gonna get some yellow and mix it with the green. And then I'm gonna do a green blue here. Blue, green, green, blue. And let's see, we've got 2 organic shapes remaining. What color should we use? I think I want like a red violet to begin with for this one. I'm painting outside the lines, that's okay, doesn't matter. That's fun. So the color options are really endless. You can mix whatever color you want just using the primary colors. That cloud should probably be, well, I don't know, an orange maybe? We don't have very much orange so far. Maybe like a red-orange cloud. And then what will happen if I mix red, orange, and this like turquoise color together? It might be kind of a brown. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Because that's all of the colors. If you mix all the colors together, you will get a brown color. So, oh, beautiful. So sometimes if your colors, when you're mixing your colors together, if you're like, oh, that's totally brown, it may be because you mixed all the colors together at once. When you're done painting for the day, you're going to rinse off the lid of your palette. I know this got a lot of nice colors, so we would say, oh, maybe we'll use those colors later, but usually you just want to mix colors again because it's so fun. I'm just using the paper towel that I used before. Even if it has paint on it, it will still really work for this. And I'm also looking at the rest of my palette to make sure that there's not like a color in another color or something like that, because you can fix that now, but when you're ready to paint next time, it would be a really big bummer to you to have to deal with that later. So this looks like it's ready to go next time, so I'm just going to close it up. We've got some really interesting and important information about the colors on the color wheel that'll help us when we're making decisions later on. So if we look at this side of the color wheel, those are cool colors. Green, blue, and violet are cool colors. And warm colors are over here. And if you think about like fire, those colors are in fire when we're thinking about the colors that we see. Yellow, orange, and red, warm colors. Colors that are next to each other on the color wheel are called analogous. So blue and violet are analogous. When they're opposite from each other, they're called complementary. Exactly opposite are called complementary. And if you put those colors next to each other, if you just look at those colors next to each other, they have a lot of contrast. They're very bright, and you can get really cool effects in your art if you use contrast. So we'll think about violet and yellow. Let's see, block the rest of the colors out, and you see there, they're so different. They're complementary. They complement each other, and they help each other stand out. So those are some important things. You can use them to your benefit. All right, my friends, have so much fun.